evening, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out, and thank you guys for having us. Super excited to be here. This is kind of like a full circle moment for me. I am actually graduated of the University of Tampa back in 2019, and my original major was finance, so I graduated with a degree in finance here. And I'm currently the digital marketing manager for PDQ. So some of you guys may know us, some of you guys may be fans of the brand, and some of you guys may have never heard of us before. So I'll start with a quick summary synopsis of who we are and what we do. We are PDQ. That's an acronym for People Dedicated to Quality. And what we are a QSR brand, which is a quick service restaurant. We like our acronyms. So we focus on tenders, sandwiches, and salads, being chicken, right? We were founded in 2011 by Bob Basham and Nick Reeder. They curated the concept from a small town in North Carolina called Tenders, also known as Cornelius, North Carolina. They came down and brought the concept to South Tampa, where we have our home office now. Over the course of 12 years, we've been able to grow pretty substantially. We're up to 62 locations in multiple states, most heavily being in the state of Florida, right here, but also having locations in North Carolina, South Carolina, New Jersey, and New York, specifically Long Island and specifically South Jersey. We are people dedicated to quality, and so it really shows in our name and the product that we produce, as well as the people, including our staff from the field to the corporate office to the community that we affect. They exemplify quality. And so I may be biased, but I love our chicken, so if you guys have not tried PDQ, definitely give it a try. And so tonight, what I'm doing is I have a panel of Hall of Fame quality team of our team, who I will be asking questions to, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll open it up to questions for you guys. To start, I'm going to give a little bit of background on my position and what I do, and then a little bit of like my personal background and how I got to my position at PDQ. So, like I said, I'm the digital marketing manager of PDQ, so that entails all things digital. I work with the digital team and on the marketing team. I work and assist with the loyalty program, the app that goes on your phone, website, customer service, digital reviews, campaign building, and the list goes on and on. All things digital. And as you know, digital is always changing. So the job itself keeps me on my toes. I'm always learning something new, and it's a really fulfilling job, and I truly enjoy what I do. And then my personal background and how I'm here in Tampa and how I ended up getting a position with PDQ. Like I said, I graduated here in 2019, so I got down here in 2015 from Central New Jersey. We probably have some people from New Jersey here, and if they know, it's a debate on if Central Jersey exists or not. I will say it does exist. But I came down here for beautiful weather, good education. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in business, but didn't know I wanted to work specifically in marketing. I did start my original major as marketing, and I kind of got my feet wet, taking different internships and figuring out what I enjoyed to do. So I took internships in marketing, analytics, working in sales as well, and an internship in finance. My final internship was at PDQ. I was doing marketing analytics and marketing operations and learning the business, learning the industry, and really, really enjoyed what I was doing. But at the end of the internship expired, and I then graduated college and moved on to a job in finance. Worked in finance for about 2 years, realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Saw a job posting for PDQ again, reached out to the management there, and threw my hat in the ring to try to get an interview, and they graciously brought me back. I was very happy about that. But overall, it's been a great experience going from learning at the University of Tampa, getting all the experience that I had, and then now working at PDQ. And so what we're doing tonight is asking questions to our Hall of Fame panel here. And I'm going to introduce, or have them introduce themselves and then ask them some questions to help give you guys some knowledge and tips and things that you could use in your future career path. So we'll start with Frankie Rappa over here.
Yes, so it says Frank there, but if you realize Jimmy called me Frankie, everybody calls me Frankie. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. I've been with PDQ for 4 years. I'll give you a little bit about my background before I talk about PDQ, although Jimmy did a really good job talking about the brand, so it's perfect. My background is in retail. I worked in a bunch of different fashion companies. Then I went into fitness. And when I talk about fashion, really my prime job was working for Giorgio Armani. I had many different roles, started from the field, from store level, and built my career up. And my last role was the Vice President of International, where I oversaw the Middle East, Central South America, and product for the globe. So I saw operations for those 2 territories and the product for the rest of the world. And then I switched over to fashion. I worked for a company called Equinox Fitness. I'm not sure if any of you heard of that, Equinox Fitness Clubs. We had 5 different brands. Besides Equinox, the other most popular one is SoulCycle. And my responsibility for those brands was product. I was the head of product. So anything that we sold, wore, or bought. So if you went to the spa and you used product in the spa, we were responsible for that. If you were at SoulCycle and bought a t-shirt after class, my team was responsible for that. If you worked at Equinox and you were a trainer and you had on a uniform, my team was responsible for that. So across all the different channels. We did have a cafe called Juice Press, which was my first really venture into food, minus cutting cold cuts at my parents' deli when I was a kid. But then I left Equinox and I started consulting for a bunch of different brands. I met the founders of PDQ, consulted for them for a bit, and it was mostly on brand on brand direction and brand strategy. At that point, we had 5 different store designs, we had 4 different logos, we were in much more than 5 states, and we really had to center what the brand was about. And that kind of transitions my conversation into what is my role as Chief Marketing Officer. So my role, I'm going to throw some questions out to you guys, and I think it's important for me to know this. How many of you have heard of PDQ? Excellent. How many of you have the app on your phone? Yeah. Gold star. I'm asking you guys these questions because this really helps me determine what my job is. My job is to identify the guest, understand who the consumer is, and build a brand around that consumer. So whether I'm selling clothing, I'm creating a workout program for you, or I'm feeding you fantastic chicken tenders, the ultimate goal here is to understand who you are, what makes you tick, what will transition you into a customer, and then sell you a product. So that defines really the ultimate responsibility of my role. I also like to say that my role is to create perception of the brand. So if you just move here to go to college and you're new to Florida, how do you perceive PDQ versus our competitors, right? So the perception of the brand, which is the voice of the brand and the DNA behind who we are as people dedicated to quality. And then the other side of it is how do you not just perceive us, but how do you receive us? How do you purchase us? What's the channel that you're buying us on? How are you ordering us? Is it in store? Is it online? What is your journey as the guest, and how do we meet you there? And we'll talk a lot about that today. So hopefully that answered your question.
Perfect. And then next up we have Alexis.
Yes, I'm Alexis Vasquez. I am the social media manager at PDQ. My background is a little bit all over the place. I started as a photographer. I was always an artist. And I worked for a lot of nonprofits, traveling and shooting a lot of photos. And with nonprofits, of course, the budget is not so high. So of course it was like, oh, you take pictures, can you also do video? Oh, you do video and pictures, can you also do social media? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make it work. Fake it till you make it. And from there, I got a job at Boys and Girls Clubs of Tampa Bay. and I was their social media manager and events manager. And one big part of PDQ is not just being dedicated to quality, but also to community. We make our community efforts a really big focus at PDQ. And so through my job at Boys and Girls Clubs, I met some of the team at PDQ, and I guess they kept their eye on me and they reached out a couple years later, and that's how I ended up at PDQ. I've been here for a little over a year now, and I absolutely love it. I tried to find my niche in marketing, and I think social media is a great blend of creativity and also like brainstorming and strategy. And so I feel like I've really grown a lot at PDQ, from being just a photographer and a creative to being someone who can creatively think and try to fix problems and learn about people and how our guests respond to us, and and also like customer service, guest service, like how do we win a customer back when they had a negative experience. So it's allowed me to learn not just about marketing and how to create great content, but also how to learn about people and what they're really craving, not just in food but in service. So it's been a really fun time, and yeah.
And then last up we have Ken Bott, who also works in digital with me.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I have been with the company about 2 years. I really started off, you want to talk about going around the horn. I started off in the airline industry, had a love for aviation early on in life, and wanted to go work for the airlines. So I started working for the airlines in their sales and marketing department. Did an internship. If we haven't said internship enough, you should hopefully have it stick in your head, because it's really helpful in guiding your path to your ultimate career. So I had internships in college, working in sales and marketing department. Did a variety of really kind of grunt-worthy jobs, but learned a lot. Ended up getting basically roped into helping with the burgeoning space that some people call the internet. I'm so old that it hadn't really kind of grown into something that everyone should pay attention to, and learned a lot because we started sending emails and selling airline tickets for the first time. So getting my feet wet there was really educational. I worked for a couple of different airlines, and then ended up going and doing the same thing for hotel companies. So I worked for a really large hotel company that's got like 4,000 hotels worldwide, and really started to fall into not just the digital work, but then also into the relationship with the guest kind of work, right? Which is really kind of what loyalty is. And really learned a tremendous amount with the people that I worked with, not only from their skill set, but then also the diversity. So I was able to work in a bunch, like Frank, a bunch of international co-workers. So learning from others was very helpful in my career kind of growth. Working for the hotels for several years, and then got drafted by another restaurant chain, which you may be familiar with, called Outback Steakhouse. They wanted to start their own customer database and be able to market to people, and start a loyalty program, and really kind of amplify their digital efforts in the social space as well as their online advertising campaigns. Then got recruited to go to Darden Restaurants, which is an even larger restaurant chain, which you don't know a Darden restaurant, but you probably know Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, Eddie V's, Capitol Grill, like. So I was fortunate enough to work in an enterprise kind of capacity, so I got to work on all the different brands. So really learned a lot there, and then was really attracted to PDQ because of where they were in their maturity cycle, right? Those are larger companies that have been around for a while. Some of them are tired brands, frankly, right? I mean, you guys probably don't even go to Olive Garden. But they still get a lot of customers. But finding a growing company with really kind of entrepreneurial kind of spirit that PDQ has is what attracted me to go work for them and help them establish their loyalty footprint, and then really kind of hone our expertise or our efforts to try to get and meet with people, potential guests, that in the digital space, right? So that's everything from online advertising, there's some social overlap, email, building apps, being able to take online ordering. Before I started with the company, they didn't even have the ability to take orders online. So there's been a lot of growth and excitement in the last couple of years, and hopefully we'll be able to tell you a little bit more about what we learned.
Awesome, thank you guys. Got a few questions for the panelists. The first question I have is for Alexis. How did you create your social media strategy for PDQ?
Great question. So I look at my social media strategy in two main buckets with a lot of other little buckets inside. But basically, you know, there's obviously a product that we're trying to sell. Our chicken tenders, our sandwiches, our salads, our milkshakes. There's promotions, there's food focuses for the month, or limited time offers that we're offering. And so part of my job is to obviously promote those things on social media, not just in a creative way, but in an effective way. So that may involve organic posts, it may sometimes involve paid social media posts, just depending on what the promotion is and how long it's running. But then the other part of my social strategy is building that brand awareness and that brand loyalty. Like, are we someone that people like love to talk about? Or like, hey, did you see that meme that PDQ posted? Did you see that tweet that they put out? Like, building that sort of community around our brand. And a good example I can think with that is, with me personally, is like, I had this friend that lived in New York and she loved this place called Sweet Green. And I was committed to that brand. They sell like bowls and salads for the longest time before I ever had it. And I was like, I love Sweet Green. I love their Instagram. I love their Twitter. I love their emails. And I had never been. And then they finally opened a couple months ago by Armature Works and now in Hyde Park Village. And I loved it before I even ate there. And the food was already an added bonus. Like, it was really good. But to be honest, I think it was like even better to me in my mind, because I was already like bought into their brand. And their storytelling. And so, you know, while there's promotions that I put together, obviously through whatever we talk about as a marketing team, there's also like, okay, how do we work that into being saucy? We talk a lot about being saucy, tender loving, we're inclusive, we're playful, we're all those things. So like, how do I mesh the two and still get what's important out there, but also like make it more about community and connecting with people as people, not just customers or guests. So that's the bulk of my social strategy. Yeah.
And so the next question is kind of a follow-up for you here, Alexis.
Oh,
is
okay.
How does a chicken named Petey play into your brand voice on social media?
Okay, so my favorite thing about my job is that I pretend to be a chicken from 9 to 5. So our mascot, our logo is a chicken, and his name is Petey. And I don't know if
That's Jimmy's shirt.
Yeah, on Jimmy's shirt. I should have put a bigger picture, but he's kind of like a big chicken. So the way that I work that into our social strategy is I really try to literally create copy as if it were Petey the chicken speaking. And the easiest way that this comes across is through like when I'm talking to guests, whether they're angry guests, whether they're people, you know, hating on us and saying we're not as good as Chick-fil-A. Like, I always like clap back with something that Petey would say. What would Petey say? And I love that PDQ has given me the freedom to kind of have that cheeky personality, because I'm naturally like that, so I'm really kind of not acting. So when people are like, you know, just leave us saucy comments, and you know, I just kind of clap back. And of course, if there's something that I can do to help them, then I will. I'll either, you know, load a free meal in their account. But it's always like in this sort of playful, don't take your life too seriously kind of way. And that's just kind of how I just always think, what would Petey say? And I just work that into the copy and even some of the graphics and photos we take.
We love Petey.
We do.
So switching gears just a little bit, change is a big thing in business, and there is a variety of things that change every year. And one of the biggest changes that everybody in the world has had to adapt to over the past 3 years has been COVID and also the inflation that we're faced with. So my next question is for Ken here is, how did COVID and inflation impact restaurants, and what changes have you seen in the digital space since then when it comes to interactions with brands?
So how many people here went through COVID? It sucked, right? And it changed everyone's behavior, right? Everyone, were you supposed to wash the groceries that you bought at the grocery store before you actually handled them? I mean, there's all kinds of dynamics that went on. So what we focused on quickly as a pivot as an organization was to build out, these virtual touch points, right? And make sure that we were managing those touch points appropriately. So whether it was building online ordering or, being able to be more specific with the imagery that we used so people could see, that they weren't going to be crowded, like that Chick-fil-A that's down the street there, where everyone's on top of one another, and so to manage expectations, I guess that's the biggest thing that really has happened with COVID, is that everyone's expectations have changed, right? And so now everybody, before COVID, there was, everything was compared to, well, if I can get it like Amazon, then it satisfies me and it meets my expectations. But then there's also the other aspect of like what Amazon did, which everyone has had to adapt to, is, well, I want to make sure I'm getting a good deal, right? I want to make sure I'm getting the right product at the right price for what I need it for, and I want it like when I want it, which is like tomorrow. So I think the expectations of consumers has changed a lot, and that's really what I get paid to do, is to try to recognize those flags that people throw up. So whether it may be their engagement with certain ads that we run, or with certain copy or creative that we use in the email, or images that we put into the app, or the value proposition, right? I think that's something else too, is that along with those expectations that have changed, everybody wants the value proposition of engaging with the brand up front now. And they want transparency, right? And they want to feel like they're part of the tribe that the brand is part of, right? Which Alexis is doing a great job of managing, and Frank is in charge of, really, is trying to be able to be transparent with what the essences of what we're about, which is people dedicated to quality. And that should be not just the food that you're able to, enjoy, but then also the, hospitality that you feel when you walk in the door, and the attention to detail, and the packaging, and the efficiency, and all of the communication about, if you're going to order food, when's it going to be ready, and, getting light touches on your shoulder along the way, so that everything is transparent and the engagement you would have if you were basically talking back and forth with people. So I think and Frank will go into it, so I won't steal some of his thunder, but really trying to figure out how to change the tone that you're talking to people in, so that it really does become more somewhat mainstream, or more clearly identifiable as what the brand stands for, so that we can get people to come back over and over again. And so that's part of where it kind of segues into like loyalty. So now I have marketing technology on the back end that allows me, believe it or not, right, track you wherever you go, because you've got probably one of the most identifiable things, in your pocket, right, that everybody wants to either get on or get close to. And what we like to say is that, we wanted to make sure we had an app because it's as close to your wallet as a lot. I don't know, I use Apple Pay pretty much exclusively. I don't even carry cash. And so my phone is as close to my wallet as anything else, but it's also close to my stomach, and it's close to my heart. So I want to feel good about what I eat, right? And then have it easily accessible. And so that, I think, has been a trend you've seen with a lot of companies. Some have stumbled. fortunately, I think we've done a pretty good job at it. And so that's what we'll continue to do to make sure that everyone sees all of the hard work that Frank did with kind of establishing, our brand in the marketplace, and Alexis and Jimmy are helping deliver on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so he mentioned as a business being adaptable and being versatile. So that's also a great trait and skill to have as an individual. And Frank mentioned that he worked in both fitness and fashion, so he kind of dipped his toes in multiple industries. And so my question for you, Frank, is how did your experiences in fashion and fitness shape your role and vision for PDQ?
Yeah, I think back to my retail days, and everything to me is related to a mall, right? I'm dating myself too, but you would go to the mall and that's where you would shop. And the transition of how you purchased products or how you obtained anything has changed over the years, right? So we started with a mall, we went from brick and mortar to e-commerce. E-commerce became omni-channel, you can order it online, you can return it in a store. So I always say the journey, right? That guest journey, that completely changed in retail. And then fast forward into the fitness industry, and it was the same thing. So you go to the gym and you do reps on the bench. Then SoulCycle came out and Peloton came out, and we got you to go into a studio, or we got you to work out at home and pop up a YouTube video of yoga and do some poses in your living room. And your transition of fitness changed from brick and mortar to omni-channel to e-commerce, and your experience kind of related to retail. And it's the same thing in restaurants. And that, again, that's why I say the product doesn't matter. It's really about the strategy. So in restaurants, you would go to a drive-through, you pull through. I grew up in the city. I grew up in New York City. We didn't really have drive-throughs. So you walked into the restaurant, you got your food, and you left. And then that changed, and COVID definitely made us step on the gas, but how you got food, whether it be delivered, then there's all these apps, DoorDash, Uber Eats, all the third-party players. So again, no matter what, then now there's curbside. We have something called Flyby now, so we track you. It tells the team when you're there, so they know they could run the food out for you. So the technology has completely changed the game. And it really reminds me of the journey that we created in retail and in fitness is what we're doing in restaurants. The ultimate goal is to create brand perception and to deliver a product to the guest.
So you kind of answered the second question I had for you here too, is how has marketing changed during your career and what do you envision for the future?
Yeah, marketing has completely changed. I think to the sentence of the only thing that's consistent and constant in the world is change. And you need to always embrace change. And I'd say take that as a good piece of advice for your future as you guys graduate, but change is inevitable. It will always happen. And marketing is no different example of that. Ken pulled out his phone, and when he was pulling that out, I was just thinking, wow, we used to actually worry about the guest and understand who the guest is. Now it's more about what's on your phone. How do I get that real estate? How does the app, you have the app on the phone. How do I get your app onto the first screen versus you scrolling to the third screen? I wanted it positioned ahead of the DoorDash app, right? So it's all about space in your phone versus just the guest. So marketing has evolved. And then I'll talk about the continued evolve. Like there's always the hot topic. I think as I interview people over my career, it's like, let's see how many times they used this word, or let me see, it's like, what's the hot topic? And so does anybody know the hot topic right now? AI and chat GPT, right? So everything is like, again, it changes. And right now with like AI, it's, yes, we use it on a daily basis, but that will change. If you come into the drive-thru right now, you have a person, people dedicated to quality, it's people first organization. So a person, a human being takes your order and you proceed to the next window. When I was in Equinox, we used to do this. If it was chest day, how many people work out? When you're working out chest, do you do the same 5 exercises? I mean, most people do, right? Most people have a plan and they follow this plan, and your fly machine might be the last workout that you're doing, and it's 3 sets that you do. Well, we know that because we have beacons in the ceiling and it's tracking you through your phone. So when you're doing that chest exercise, the fly exercise, and you're on your 3rd set, we send you a notification through your phone, and it says, "Hey Joe, you're finishing your workout. Would you like us to get a green juice ready for you at the juice bar?" You say yes. We have your card on file. We've charged you for it, right? That's all AI. So it's amazing that it's been in place, it's been happening, but it's just going to continue to develop and grow. So the landscape of marketing will constantly change. I think what's exciting for me about my job is I get to almost look at the team as departments and say, okay, what are we doing in the digital space? How does this represent social? How does it affect you in store? In the creative team, there's people that actually create graphics and make the campaigns come to life. And for the conversations we have, it's always, when you drive into the parking lot, how do you visualize it? When you see it on your phone, how do you visualize it? And if it's a billboard on 275, how do you visualize it? So one message might come across 2 or 3 different ways. And hopefully some things you guys get out of tonight is the different elements of marketing that make up a brand. And you guys can ask us questions about that when we get to it. But.
And then off of some of what Frank said, I want to get your opinion, Ken. What are some of the main behaviors you're seeing from today's consumer, whether that be from the digital channel or just in general consumers today?
Yeah. Well, how many people in here are fickle when it comes to picking, type of apparel that you shop for online? All right. How many people are dedicated to one brand, or are they shopping for price, right? Or do you sometimes go, well, I have to wait because it's got to get shipped. I don't want to pay shipping, but I'll make do with this other kind of product, right? So I think what I said before a little bit around is that people are changing, right? And they've gotten used to having choices and selecting what they want, where they want it, when they want it. And so that really has impacted our marketing approach because we've had to adjust per each channel. And if we know following you around from the data that's collected by maybe your transactions that you've done or the aggregate transactions that we see of everyone, we can really start to hone in on what we think is going to work for one segment of, say college kids, right? And see what we can kind of do to put the right message in front of the right time. But everything, the expectation, I think that's really, really key, and what Frank alluded to before, thus tapping into AI stuff, is that everybody deserves, and this is the way because we're people dedicated to quality, you deserve to have the message crafted exclusively for you, right? It should be respectful of the interaction that you gave us. We should be knowledgeable about that, take that into consideration. Because, how many people here get blast emails and you're like, they're not doing any targeting, they've never looked at anything that I've bought, obviously, so they're just spraying and praying with their email or their Instagram, campaigns or their, text message campaigns, right? So I think that's where the advancements that are going to be made using technology are going to allow even relatively small companies like us. We're a $130 million company. That's not big in the grand scheme of things, especially like restaurants, but it's allowing us to compete with the big boys too. And the beauty of being in a smaller organization, if you're potentially looking at opportunities when you get out of school, is that we get to, I kind of characterize it as I'm a specializing generalist, which means I know a little bit about a lot of stuff. And that is really, really valuable in learning about what an organization does and then what the consumers do that interact with that organization. There's nothing wrong with being my first job, like Jimmy kind of did the same thing. He was a generalizing specialist. He was in finance, right? I got out of school thinking that I was going to be an airline pilot, and that failed. Fortunately, I wasn't in an airplane when it did. But I realized that the pivot that I needed to take was I really liked the marketing aspect of it more, and how we could change people's behavior just by putting the right message in front of them at the right time. And I think that's going to continue to really kind of exhibit itself with all sizes of organizations. And frankly, I think some of the excitement, like with working with a big company, is you have a huge amount of diversity and you can get some consensus and learn from others. But you can do the same thing with small companies too. But I think the big takeaway is that no matter whether you try to go and get employed by a large company or a small company, just remember to ask a lot of questions and observe. And if you feel like you don't really like what you're doing, like Jimmy did have the kind of the epiphany. It's like, this isn't for me. Yeah, change, right? I think you guys have one of the best generational gifts that anyone's ever given. And I say that looking in hindsight, is that when I was starting to go to school, it was the era where you went to go work for a company and you maybe never left, right? You would stay there, they would give you retirement money, and you would stay there until you were 25 years in, and then you could retire. Nobody does that anymore, you know? And so you have the gift of being able to find what you like, try a bunch of stuff and try what you like. And that's no different than the approach we take with a lot of the testing that we do with our own customers, is that we don't know everything about you, but we know some things about you. So testing and learning, not only from a business approach, is really important, but then also apply that to your own personal life, and don't be afraid to try some stuff until you find what it is you exactly like.
Okay, so I got a couple questions for Alexis too. How do you stay up to date with the latest social media trends and implement them to your brand voice?
Yeah, so trends are, as you know, constantly evolving, constantly changing. TikTok really added a whole new level to that, because the trends are changing like every day sometimes, and it's really hard and challenging to keep up with those trends. By the time, I'm like a millennial, so like unfortunately I'm like at the cusp where I'm like, I mainly watch reels on Instagram, and they're already like 3 weeks ago on TikTok, so it's fine. I'm learning. I work with a great team with some Gen Zers, and they help me. So, but basically what I do to kind of keep up with these trends on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter even, or just overall, like just even knowing what GBT, I can't say it right. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say. Is like, it's so valuable because it's things that people are making memes about, people are commenting, they're talking about. And so not everything will apply to PDQ. I can't always follow every trend for our specific brand, for our voice, for chicken, but I try my hardest to really evaluate like what are people talking about, and if it can in even the slightest way work in our favor, just to build that brand awareness, that community, that relationship, like, oh, you know about this too. Like, I think my most popular tweet back in February was, I said something on Twitter about the line at PDQ being shorter than the Ticketmaster line to buy Taylor Swift tickets, and like, that was the most popular tweet. And like, it's not like all of our, you know, guest base or customer base are Taylor Swift fans, but like everybody knew what I was talking about. So, you know, it's just, but you gotta be ready to jump on it. You know, when the Little Miss trend came out, it was like, okay, Little Miss Buffy Blue, because that's one of our popular sauces, and I picked the Little Miss that was like orange. Like, you know, just, you gotta be creative, you gotta be quick, but a lot of it is just literally scrolling through your phone. And I think it's funny, I make fun of myself at work because I'll literally just sit and I look like I'm totally chilling and I'm like just scrolling on my phone. But really, I'm looking for what's going on in the social media world, in the marketing world, and just the pop culture. And then I also sign up to for some really great newsletters, like Social Media Today is really good, not just for social media marketers, but any type of marketer. If you're female, then Pretty Little Marketers are really great, like girl power type marketing page that I follow on LinkedIn. And I just try to find these resources online that really kind of help me get ahead of the game when I'm like too busy to kind of dig through things myself. So I would say it's a mix of doing my own research and scrolling through and just taking the time. I literally put time on my calendar every day to just scroll, which is kind of nice, and take notes. And then I also subscribe to newsletters and websites, and also follow a lot of LinkedIn pages, a lot of LinkedIn social media marketers that I admire, or I love the brands that they work for. So find brands that you really love and be like, oh, who is their social media manager or their marketing team? And go on LinkedIn. If they don't accept your connection request, then you can always just, a lot of them have like following, like you can still follow and see the stuff that they post. And it's so, so valuable. And like, do not sleep on LinkedIn. I have learned so much in just the last couple years, just by following different people and different companies and learning how they do things and how they create relationships with people.
That's great insight. For the sake of time, I'll ask one more question to our panel, and then we'll open it up for questions from you guys. And so this is a question for all three of you. What advice would you give students as they begin their journey in finding a career path? Frank, you can start.
Sure. I'd say the most important thing is experience. And you can take that as an internship from the work side. You can take it from traveling. Personally, to me, it's exploring. It's understanding different cultures. It's trying new food. It's sitting with people you don't know. It's really defining an experience, and it doesn't have to be a paid trip somewhere. It could be, the zoo one day and networking with people there. But really, get experiences. Experience is so much more valuable. When I go back to interviews. When I'm interviewing someone, the first thing I do is look at the name. Second thing I do is turn the resume upside down, and I ask the person to tell me about them. Because you should be able to, through your experiences, sell yourself versus a piece of paper selling it for you. So school's important, work, internships important, but experience life. It is life-changing.
That's true. I agree with that. Yeah, I think just piggybacking on that, like just having an open mind really helps in any career path, in any journey that you take in life. Like just meeting as many people and learning from them, and that's how you grow, and that's how you figure out like, is this really what I want to do, or maybe I want to try something else. It's just being open to a lot of different things. And I think the other big piece of advice I have is something that even to this day I've taken to heart, and it's like not selling yourself short, not falling prey to like imposter syndrome and thinking I'm not good enough. I think that my confidence, when I have, and Frankie has been so great at like building my confidence and like reminding me of who I am when I forget. But I've had to
She's
work
really
on that.
not PD.
I'm really not PD. Yeah. I'm Alexis, and I can sell myself short, and I can say I don't know, this is too much for me. I don't think I can do this. So many other people like have it more together, know more about trends, can build on this better than I can. But no, I can do this, and I was created to do this, and I am creative, and I do have strategy, and and so personally, the way that I differ from all of you guys is that I don't have a college degree. So I always felt like I didn't earn any place that I ended up. And what I found from my friends that even did go to college is that they feel the same way, just, because of something else. And I just think that my confidence, as I've learned, as I've gone through many work experiences, like just being confident has gotten me a lot more places than my resume has, that the things that I don't have a college degree, like they're not gonna hire me, or I don't have this much experience with paid social media advertising, so they're not gonna wanna talk to me. No, but when I just own who I am, and like I said, fake it till I make it, you're not lying, but you're building yourself up and saying that you are worthy of a great future, of a great career, and that you're worthy of doing whatever the heck you want to do. Even if you change your mind 5 years from now and you're like, I don't want to do marketing anymore, like you have the power power and the confidence to do that. So that's my advice.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, preach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would kind of build on same kind of thought process around networking. I think Alexis hit it spot on with her talk about LinkedIn. I think that's underutilized by younger folks because they don't feel, they have that feeling that, well, I'm not in business yet. Why should I have LinkedIn? It's a networking tool, but it's for professionals. You guys are all aspiring professionals. Some of you may be professionals. You may have a side gig and you're making a killing already, selling something on, Etsy or something like that. I think the point is expand your horizons of how people can help you. I learned some of the most valuable lessons by talking with people, right? It's so much easier to have somebody walk you through how to do some business problem or a business challenge by talking with them, right? It's not all, you've got to go read everything and be smart and then go into a meeting and then want to sound smart. It is really, I've had imposter syndrome my entire career, every time I change jobs, because I don't have the relationships. But belief in yourself is really important. Trying things, not being afraid to fail, because, and I mean, that's what I do every day at work, is I try to fail gracefully, pick it up, and then do it again, because I'm testing and learning by doing, A/B testing with stuff, throwing things against the wall to see if it will stick, but still doing it within the parameters, guardrails of the brand. But I think just, being yourself, to what Alexis said, and then trying things and not being afraid to fail, because, and I don't know the quote, but really the essence of it is basically, you fail, but every time you fail, you actually learn more. It hurts, sure, it hurts, but it hurts your ego more than anything. People around you aren't going to judge you, right? It's how you deal with failure and move on and apply it to the rest of your life that's really important. So network on LinkedIn, please reach out, connect with me. I've got like 2,500 people that I'm connected to that work in a huge variety of for business verticals. I do follow a lot of people who are really freaking smart. I mean, you could follow Bill Gates and see what he posts. You could follow, Elon Musk. It's a little bit of a shit show right now, but you can follow him and listen to and just get inside their head. And there's an awful lot of, I love TED.com. That is that's candy for me, because I can watch 15-minute videos of somebody teaching me something that literally every time I go there, something blows my mind. So being open to learning, network with people, don't be afraid to fail.
All quality advice. We're going to open it up for questions now, and then if anybody has any extra questions afterwards, we'll be staying after, so if you have any individual questions, feel free to come up to us, and we're happy to help you guys. But if you guys have any questions?
I'm going to have to leave in a couple minutes, so I definitely want to ask this question. So you guys got on the personal, I'll stand up for a second.
I can't see you.
On the personal side of it, and I've experienced this a lot lately, where I'll go into a very well-known grocery store and go to the deli, and I'll walk up to order a sandwich, and people are very busy. The employees are chit-chatting with each other, and it takes them 30 seconds before they finish. We're going to finish our conversation before we pay attention to you, the customer. I'll walk into a restaurant, like at Boston Market, say, for example, and someone's on their phone, and they're texting somebody or doing something, they're watching a video, and then I walk up, and they're kind of slow to respond. I go, did I wear my visibility ticket today? Can you not see me? I'm not that small. But I'm just wondering, you talk a lot about digital, but what about that personal side? Your people standing in your stores represent your brand. So how do you hire the right kind of people? What personalities they have? How do you get them to represent your brand the way that you want it to be seen? And is personal connection still very important?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to lead with our name. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to lead again with our name of being people dedicated to quality. There's some things that we put our foot down and say we're not going to change. The drive-thru is a prime example. You pull up to that drive-thru, we want to make sure that you feel the impact of that person right away. So the personal connection and the experience of what it is really important to us. From the people side of it and what we do as far as training, a lot of what we do as a team, it's kind of twofold. We have external marketing and we have internal marketing. So we're creating a lot of brand videos. We're creating a lot of training in the physical space, in the physical restaurant of what that should look like. And everything that we identify, if you think about Alexis's social strategy and you hear her talk about the brand values, those are the qualities that we look for within the candidates in the restaurant. So, we say we're honest and transparent. Even our kitchens are open. If you go into our restaurant, we don't have heat lamps or a chute that the food comes down. You physically can see the team members cooking the food and passing it on to you. So having them understand the value that people put into people dedicated to quality and sell them on the interview versus it just being a one-way street of you applying for a job is really important in what we do to identify that. Now, even though that's important, even though we are going to constantly create that experience, that personal connection, there's somebody that's going to be on their phone ordering. So having the kiosk available for them, because they don't want to interact, is prime. But we also do the connection and the bridge between. So if you do a third-party order, if you're ordering from DoorDash, we encourage our team to write on the bag as if you were in front of them. So it might be, why did the chicken cross the road to get to PDQ? Enjoy your meal. And it is that saucy attitude and personality that PD has that we try to give in the digital space to the guests to create that smile even if you're not in front of us. But you're right, that's a very challenging, it's interesting because it's very challenging, but the dynamic of marketing is changing with all these different platforms that it allows you to receive the brand any way that you want as a guest.
I have a question I have a question for Ken. You mentioned that, like, on a day-to-day basis, you're trying to fail gracefully. Could you give me like a good example of maybe like a very successful failure and like what that led to?
Good question. I want to know too.
Well, I think part of what we've done, and there's a lot of marketing technology, it's not me and Jimmy just magically making stuff happen, but testing different offers for different groups of people, right? Where we try to get, your traditional kind of loyalty life cycle marketing, we try to get people who are new, we try to put, carrots in front of them or tenders, right, to get them to behave a certain way, trying to figure out what the best enrollment offer is, right? We put tenders out there originally. We pivoted to a sandwich because we saw more traction on that. And what was a delight for us in one of the campaigns was we were trying to show appreciation to our top level customers, that we rank everybody. We've got like 300,000 people in our database, and every single one of them are ranked with like a value quotient. So the top like 5% of people we sent an offer out to, and a lot of people, you would think that a free sandwich would be a nice gesture. What I found interesting is that a lot of people appreciate it, but how many people, when we said, we're just giving you a free sandwich because we value your business, thank you, how many people replied? I mean, they actually replied back and said, thank you for being the brand that I go to where I know I'm going to get the food made the way I like it, and you're respectful of my dietary concerns, you know what my favorites are, I always get a smile when I walk in, and people sent emails back, not just on social. I mean, we get, so that was kind of like a failure where I was like, is this enough? And apparently it was, but then the response back enlightened me that I should be doing more, right, in terms of observing their behavior, but then also I should be, sending them more offers, maybe at the right time. Yeah, you get a birthday meal on your birthday, but, can we customize the messaging so that it's comes from the person that you see actually all the time when you go into a restaurant. And so we're testing stuff like that. Is that going to wear you out? I don't know yet, but we'll see what kind of what kind of traction it gets. That's probably the most. I mean, that was, and like to put numbers around it, we got like a 10% incremental lift of visit behavior, which is all. And I'm not a finance guy, but Jimmy will kind of probably maybe attest to. I have some finance background. Is that 10% incremental lift above what everyone's behavior was before and after, right? So truly margin accretive behavior that we drove by just sending them a thank you, right? It's amazing to get, I mean, and it to a couple thousand people, and we got a 10% visit lift. So what does that mean? Well, I got them to visit outside of their normal cadence, and I got them to spend more than they normally would. So that's a big check mark. I thought it was just going to be like, hey, I just spent an ass ton of money giving everyone free sandwiches. And it turned out that we made even more money than, take the incentive cost out and the execution cost. I still made 10% more. So that was a good delight, which I got to go to Frank and go, look how good Jimmy and I are.
All right, so one more question, and then if any of you guys have further questions, feel free to come up to us, and we're staying after to answer any other questions. So anybody has one more question, or?
This could be for anyone. Does PDQ have a strategy when it comes to influencer marketing?
Yeah.
There you go. I was like, I guess it's more for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So influencer marketing for us, I think, is a little bit newer. It wasn't always the focus, and we've obviously worked with influencers in the past. One of them being the Moy brothers, which was more of a TikTok thing. Has anybody heard of the Moy brothers before? Okay, they're like, you can just introduce them real quick.
Yeah, Oliver Moy and Sebastian Moy, they're part of the North Star Boys. It's a boy band out of Ocala originally, but
they have a crazy
they
ton
have
of
like
followers
12
on
million
TikTok.
followers each in TikTok, and they
Yeah.
helped us launch TikTok.
They helped us launch our TikTok, which was very valuable at the beginning because we didn't have anything with TikTok, and they really helped get that off the ground, especially because I came on kind of as they were in that contract with us. And so we worked with influencers in that capacity to help us launch, part of our social strategy, which in this case was TikTok. I think we've also, one of the bigger ways that we work with influencers right now is through our new store openings. And what we'll do is, especially like with New York, where people are not as prone to know who we are, we invited a bunch of foodies and moms and family bloggers to come and experience like an exclusive night at PDQ. So what they got was a unique experience because we weren't paying them. Here's the thing, is that if you know anything about influencers, they could charge you $50 a post or $10K for a post. The other day I got a guy, sweet guy, 130K followers on Instagram, but he's like, I would like $10K for one Instagram reel, $12K if it's a TikTok. I'm like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, like I'll make, I don't even make that much. So, for like, yeah, exactly, like for a post. So yeah, exactly, chicken tenders, that's a lot of chicken that we gotta sell to pay that guy. So we're trying to be unique with our influencer strategy. So with these events that we've hosted for influencers, it's a free event. We're not paying them, but what we're giving them is food. We're giving them an exclusive experience. We're giving them swag. We're giving them, what we did is like we'll create like this tailored menu. We came up, gosh, I wish I had a picture of it, but we came up with this sauce flight and had all of our 7 signature sauces on the flight, and then gave them each one of those with like different tenders and nuggets and everything. And so naturally they wanted to post about this, and a lot of them did, and we got so much just traction and posts and user-generated content from that. So we've done that with our new store openings. We're working with Yelp now to create those influencer experiences more, and not just for...
I just want to add something to that too.
Yeah.
Is I think Alexis does a really good job of segmenting the offers that we have and have an audience for it. So
Right.
she's got a group of moms that if we're doing family meals, it's the moms that she's targeting. So it's
Right.
Tampa Bay moms or something like that.
Right, picking your influencer too based on like what they're trying to sell.
And then the other thing too is NIL has been a big
Mhm.
change in the world right now, and how athletes, professional athletes and collegiate athletes are paid or looked at as a brand. So we do some work in that space too. If the store is, one of our restaurants is in a market where there's a school and the player is attached to the brand, then it makes sense. We're launching a promotion with Pete Alonso, who's a Tampa native, who plays for the Mets. We have restaurants in Port St. Lucie, which is where spring training is, and we have restaurants in Long Island, and we're doing a fundraiser for his foundation, so there's a connection there. So the influencer can go beyond just a foodie, but
Right.
a professional influencer as well.
Right. Yeah, that sums it up.
Thank you guys for coming out.